Okay, we have Garry Ferrara, who's laughing already, and Matt Cox, the con man, in here. Two real estate agent guys, and we're all together. That's why I'm sitting over here in the end, because I'm the doofus out of those three right now.
I tore a tag off a pillow one time that said it was a federal offense. That's all I got.
Yeah.
I hurt someone's feelings once.
Did you? So thank you, Matt and Garry, for coming in. And so what do you think is going on in the news today? We were telling Matt and I some crazy shit that's going on.
Well, that was the whole point when you called me about this. I mean, I'm just seeing the news flow. Steve Scully sends a text to Scaramucci, asks about the debate with Trump, and if she do this, then they catch him. He claims he's hacked, which is a lie, and C-SPAN just suspended him today for lying, which is good. And then you've got Wells Fargo. They had to fire 100 people for stealing PPP money. That's the money coming in from the government. And you got Hunter Biden, who brings 3 laptops into a guy, and the guy retrieves the data from him, but Hunter never comes back and gets them. The guy gives it to the FBI, who sits on it for a year. There's pictures of a guy in a bathtub with a crack pipe. They're talking about an email that Hunter sent to the family and said Papa Joe was scraping 50% of their income. It was just like kicking up his own freaking family. So I wanted to come in and say, help me with this. I mean, you know, you guys have more experience in this than I do, because me, my wife, my friends, we just don't understand this. How is all of this going on and nobody's going to jail?
How is that happening as Matt stays on his phone?
No, only because I'm looking for the picture of Hunter Biden. It does look like he is in a bathtub.
Yeah.
Look, it's a picture of the bathtub. In the bathtub. Is that him in the bathtub?
Yeah.
I mean, that's you probably, if you scroll down, there's probably another one.
Go ahead. All right,
Sorry.
yeah, I'll put it up.
He's looking.
I've never heard that, so you just
next to the pictures of the other guys, he's got on there in bathtubs.
Jesus.
Isn't that nuts?
That's funny.
He left those pictures on his laptop.
You want to turn
Not
it off?
only is he crooked, he's stupid.
I'll turn it off.
No, I'm trying to take a screenshot of it.
Oh, I can do it.
Yeah, take a screenshot of that and email it. That's insane.
Well, but no, this was today and a couple hours of yesterday.
Yeah.
This isn't even the rest of the stuff.
Has it come out yet of what he got that $3.5 million for?
He was knocking down 80 a month, which basically they figured out was the just for his dad.
When you say knocking down 80 a month,
He was getting $80,000 a month from Burisma. Then they went to China, he and the old man, and they came back with money. And then, $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow. Okay,
Russia.
He got thrown out of the Navy. You know, he's a drug addict, crackhead. I don't get it.
Yeah.
You know, if you keep doing this and nobody goes to jail, I was talking to Matt about the movie The Big Short, because, you know, Matt's thing was mortgages and subprime. I heard you say subprime in one of the videos I saw.
Yeah, it was mostly subprime, but yeah, also conventional. But yeah, mostly subprime.
But what did we talk about before we went on? Nobody went to jail. I'm telling you, man, somebody's got to go to jail. The average guy trying to bring his kids up, trying to teach them right from wrong, they're going to demand that somebody do some real hard time.
But I don't think anybody will.
No.
I mean, if Clinton hasn't gone, I mean, nobody's going to go.
But see, I hate to even think that, and I can't deny what you're saying isn't right. But what I was saying, you know, when we were talking about what we talk about, this is what people in the street talk about. My neighbor Dan with the big Trump flag, you know, and he's looking at us, or somebody. We want to see somebody get treated like we got treated, like we would be treated, like you were treated. Okay, you do something wrong, you pay a price.
Right.
That's the picture of him in the bathtub there.
Isn't that great?
I think that's
Isn't
a. I
that-
think that's a cigarette.
A
I don't know. That's not
cigarette,
a crack pipe.
Yeah.
Oh, that is a crack.
That's
Oh,
good.
on the but he's not in the bathtub
Oh, right here,
with
right
the
here.
crack pipe.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Details.
Yeah.
I mean, well,
What
let's.
the fuck?
He's not leading a Boy Scout troop. Let's
Yeah.
just say that.
No, there's some issues going on.
Yeah.
He's shaking down his. Oh, no, I put it on my Facebook page. The one where he's shaking down. He said, Hunter sends an email to his daughter and says, "I've been paying the bills for this family forever, and And unlike Pop, he goes, I won't be shaking you down for half of your salary." I think, oh my God.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think anybody will go. You, Matt?
I mean, for what that?
Yeah. For
Well,
any
then
any of these things
Any
that
of this
these guys
stuff.
that is coming on that docket, I don't think any of them will go.
I mean, I don't know. You know, I don't know enough about it to make give an informed opinion.
Yeah.
So I mean, you know, it's like what I don't know if
Well,
you know what's he do? Is he circumventing the law in some way to do that? I'm sure he is. You know, or is he just doing it to save face? I don't know. Like I don't.
Let me rephrase it. Do you think we're living in some kind of caste system where people like us are on one level and there's this royalty that gets away with everything?
I don't think they get away with everything. I think they get away with a significant amount. And so yeah, I do think there's definitely a caste system. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I would definitely say that. That's a great, you know, that's a great way of putting it. It's just not extreme clearly, you know, defined.
Of course not.
But yeah, I would definitely say that. I mean, it's funny when you mentioned The Big Short. So do you remember when I forget what's the name of the character comes to Florida for the convention, for the mortgage convention, and he's interviewing the mortgage brokers in Florida. And remember, they're all like, oh, like I focus on, like, you know, honestly, like strippers. And I said, that was my mortgage brokers. Those were my guys.
They worked for you?
No, what?
What do you mean when you say
I'm
my
saying-
guys?
I'm saying I own a mortgage company that had about 12 guys. Those were the kind of guys that I had working for me.
Really?
They're getting, you know, they're getting everybody, strippers. They're getting all kinds of, I mean, plumbers. Like, and the thing is like there were in The Big Short.
Strippers and plumbers, you put those in.
Well, sure, because like, you know how many times I've had a plumber walk in and say, I made $120,000 last year, and you go, okay, great. And I start the process, and he brings me in his W-2s, and he made 10 grand. You showed 10 grand. Yeah, no, but I made. This is what I really. That's what
we go
he's
through
like,
that all the
yeah,
time.
that's what I told the IRS, and I'm like,
What-
you know,
what
and
do I
they're like,
do?
oh, is that an issue? Well, it's an issue for an ethical mortgage broker, but luckily you walked in my office, so no, it's not an issue. I'm gonna take care of that, but stop telling people, you know, stop giving people these fucking 1040s
Yeah.
that say you made 10 grand.
The guys in The Big Short, and I told in the other two that we did, I said, if you haven't seen that movie,
It's a great
you
movie.
gotta see it. I've seen it like 5 times.
Well, Too
And-
Big to Fail.
Oh,
That's a good one.
classic.
It's a great movie.
Classic. The book, I read the book too. The book is, Jesus, it's huge. Tell me about in those days, okay, the process in the subprime. Now I can tell you how subprime worked, and the boys at Bear Stearns had a hedge fund. And what they used to do was, you probably know this, they packaged these mortgages. But there's only like a point vig when you put this together, and they wanted to have a hedge fund. So they came up with 20-to-1 leverage. Now that point becomes 20 points. And they can take their slice and pay the investor 12 points, and then there's 8 in there to carve up. And that's why that business happened. So to write that paper, and at the time, Tommy, 2004, 5, 6, there's this huge demand for paper. And that's why they went to subprime. So I've heard some stories, but I bet you yours are better than mine about how that worked, where these guys would get this paper written.
I mean, you know, like I said, at that point I owned a mortgage company, and we did subprime, conventional, and we did. I was an FHA approved lender and a VA, Yeah, we did VA. So I mean, we basically did everything, but mostly I'd say 80% of the stuff we did was subprime. And we did do conventional too, because some guys come in, let's say you came in and you're perfect, but you don't quite make enough money. Like you could go conventional, but you don't make enough money. So I change your W-2s, your pay stubs, and you're good. You can still go conventional.
How do you change a W-2 and a pay stub?
You go to the IRS website and you download it, and I take whatever your W-2 says, and you made 95,000, but if you made 107,000, you could qualify for the loan. So I make you make 107,000, and when the lender calls your employer to verify to verify you worked there, they don't ask how much did he make last year. First of all, your employer's not going to give them that information. Secondly, they don't ask because they don't need to ask. They have the W-2. They're just calling to say, has he worked there for 2 years?
Well, when you made 95 look like 107, what'd you do? Change a 3 to an 8? I mean, how do you do that?
I changed the numbers. I mean,
how? Just take a form and punch in what you want?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
He did.
It recalculates. You could make your pay stubs or your year to date. It'll recalculate everything for you.
Really?
You print them out. You put a staple in it. You beat it up a little bit. You splatter some fucking coffee on it. You make a copy of that. You hand it in. You put it in the file. It goes through.
He's not bullshitting.
I know he's
No.
not. I know
No.
he's not.
Listen,
Well, look, you know what happened, and what I wanted to have happen here. You know what happened because it happened. I mean, Christ, everybody, you almost had no ATM machine, but to hear it and to see a guy that participated in it and is willing to come out and say, I did this.
Yes, it's funny.
I think
too.
it's cathartic. Is it cathartic?
Cathartic.
Cathartic.
What I thought is funny is I was I've been approached by a few of these title companies or there's something called it's like title monitoring.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they've been contacting me, and it's like they're looking for someone to, like, you'll watch these infomercials and they have an FBI agent and they have a lawyer and they have the victims, and then they have to hire somebody to play the actual criminal so your whole thing is to say these criminals are out here and this is what they're doing, but you can't find a criminal that will, even if he's been prosecuted and he gets out of prison, he doesn't want to go on your show and say, this is what I did, because they're hiding from him. I'm one of the few guys that will say, this is what I did. This is what happened. So back to your original question. The subprime lenders would have account executives.
Why don't we define it first? Because there's going to be some people watching this just because we're all so handsome, but they might not know what subprime is.
I mean, okay, so basically Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac create guidelines for the banks. And if the banks, and those are conventional guidelines. So these are guidelines that are out there. And what they say is Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac say, these are the guidelines. And if Bank of America lends people under using these guidelines, these are conventional guidelines. Those are conventional mortgages, and they lend money on those. They can then sell those mortgages to us, and we'll buy them from them. So let's say Bank of America has $2 billion worth of these, but now Bank of America says we need $1 billion real quick because we want to buy Wachovia. So what are we going to do? We're going to say, look, we're selling you $1 billion of these mortgages. They're underwritten to your specifications. You have to buy them. Fannie Mae buys them, gives them the money. They then take the money, they buy another bank. And so it's just a way of moving money around. And it allows them to sell these mortgages, and it standardizes everything. And it allows you to say, look, we're not going to get stuck with all this paper. We can always get rid of it. So what happens is those are conventional mortgages. So if you go to Bank of America and SunTrust, pretty much they're all the same, right? Maybe the interest rates vary slightly. But subprime, what happened was eventually Bill Clinton decided not enough people can qualify for a lot of these mortgages. And so he started going to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and saying, look, you have to loosen up the guidelines so that people that really are questionable can now afford houses, or then you can get the money they really shouldn't based on the guidelines now. But if you loosen them a little bit, more people can buy houses. Well, what happened was also the banks out there, if a bank says, you know what, we're not really concerned about being able to sell this paper. We're going to go ahead and set our own guidelines, lend our own money, and we're okay with the risk. But because it's a risk, we want to make more money than the 5% interest or 3% interest that Fannie Mae, that you can borrow money from the Fed. It's basically how the interest rates are set. But so they basically say we want to get more than that because there's more risk. So the plumber that comes in and maybe he's got 2 30-day lates, he can't get a loan through a conventional loan. We'll lend him the money, but we're not going to lend it at 5% interest. We're going to give him 7.5% interest. And so they put that out there, and those products started to sell. Like that was a good, like suddenly people are like, that's great. Like, yeah, I did have a couple 30 days late in the last 2 years, but he still got a decent score. And, say they started going, yeah.
This guy loves his kids.
Right,
yeah.
right. And we're, or maybe we'll have him put down more money and those loans they're getting them, and the economy was decent when this was happening. And so things are going good. So he's paying his bills. So then they got a little bit more expansive, and they spread it out and did a little bit more here and a little bit more there. And before you know it, they started saying, okay, well, now we got these loans. How do we get rid of these loans to continue to do this? And that's when they come up with this financial vehicle, and they start doing the tranches and putting together these
CDOs. And you see him in the movie.
Yeah.
Which and in the movie, they have Margot Robbie in a bathtub, explaining subprime
Right.
paper. And so for somebody that really said, well, I got screwed, nobody kissed me, what happened? It's a good vehicle. But that's
Right.
the best
Okay.
that's the best explanation to subprime.
Right.
And then what they do, Tommy, is they'd sell them, and Bear Stearns was big at this. They'd wrap them into tranches, like Matt said, and when you use the 20-to-1 leverage, you get some kick-ass returns. Problem is, okay, at 20 points, you go down just a little bit in housing. Of course, housing never goes down, right? All the equity's gone.
You know how many times I said that? You know how many times I'd be like, look, guys would say,
Housing never goes down.
I was like, bro, the average housing price it has been increasing by 3% for the last fucking 20 years.
Yeah.
Trust me, you're gonna have plenty of equity.
What are you, a communist?
In 5 years. 5 years from now, when you refinance this thing, or 2 years from now, trust me, the interest will be there. Because I wasn't lying. That's true. It was true. Who the hell could think that it could dip like that? But regardless, here's what you're back to your original question, because this is a part that, like, being like, giving people that overview, that's nice and everything.
Yeah.
But there, a lot of people are like, yeah, but like, how did it work? How did it? Okay, well, like from my point of view, not from the political elite and the subprime and these guys making hundreds of millions of dollars and billions of dollars. From my point of view, here's what happened. I got 12 guys. They look like this. strippers and nice cars and just, I mean, they're young, good looking guys. Matter of fact, my ex-wife the other day described that the other day. She was like, I was in this office the other day, and she's a property manager, and she had been brought in. These guys wanted her to do some property managing for some property. She goes, you know what? It's so funny, when I went in there, she goes, totally reminded me of you and your old setup. She's like, all a bunch of young, good-looking guys, and they're all like walking around. They're in nice clothes. They're driving nice cars. She was totally reminding me of you. So that was the whole image. And of course, we're running ads. We're doing anything. But here's the big thing: is like the account executives come in for Washington, like the Mortgage Warehouse or AMC Mortgage, or for these different mortgage companies, subprime mortgage companies. You got so they come in. I'm trying to think. We had one which was a Citigroup or Pinnacle. We had one Pinnacle Bank out of Chicago. The by the way, you're gonna love this. The account executives, literally. I know, let's say 30 or 40 that were constantly in and out of my office. I'm telling you right now, there were 5 or 10 of them that were actually ex-strippers. The chick that worked for Pinnacle Bank Corp was an ex-stripper. I only knew that because I used to be friends with a guy that dated her when she was an extra. So when she came in my office, I was like, what the? And she's like, oh my God. And I'm like, what are you doing here? Like, I'm thinking, is there like a strippergram or something? Or what's it?
Yeah.
And she's like, no, I'm with Pinnacle. I was like,
You're like,
what?
you gotta be kidding.
And I'm like, oh, she's like, yeah, I've been like a couple of years now. Yeah, it's great. Oh, it's great. It's this. I'm like, I mean, what do you even say? So she hands out flyers back then. You know, well, I guess they probably still do some flyers. So, you know, she hands out flyers and then they go and she looks at all these different, she'll look at your stuff and she's like, oh, send this in. We can do this. We can do that.
Strippers usually do that, by
Strippers
the way.
are,
Yeah.
They'll look at your stuff. It's
Yeah.
extra.
Yeah.
they're hustlers. So she would look at the different files and she'd say, this guy's good. And she'd say, look, you know, this could go good under this program. Like this guy would be great if you went under this program, but he has to be self-employed. You've got him as W-2'd. So if he was self-employed, it's a no-doc program. We can do this.
Wink, wink. No
Right.
doc. No doc meaning.
Right. No doc meaning he doesn't have to provide any income documentation. Then you had income, you had doc, no doc, and then you had light doc. Light doc would be you provide, let's say, 6 months bank statements, and we'll take whatever's going in the bank statements, the gross, and that's what you make, and we'll divide that by 6 months, and that's your income.
I can't understand how this all went wrong.
So,
but please
the
continue.
strippers were actually pretty good.
Oh, the strippers were great.
They found all the holes, all
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
They're hustlers.
they're mentally primed for it. So so they would come in and
We're going to be
I
hearing from strippers and plumbers.
I-
That's all I'm going to say.
literally can't tell you how many times I would send a file in somewhere
Uh-huh.
and you know you get denied for something. So you send it to Countrywide and you get denied. Okay, fine. And then the account executive for Countrywide comes in and brings your file back to you.
When you say account executive, I'm familiar with closers, underwriters.
No, the
How do
account
you
exec-
define?
account executive is the person that's trying to get mortgage brokers and loan officers to send their customers to their lender. So if I work for Pinnacle Bank and I'm an account executive, I go to all of the mortgage brokers
Uh-huh.
out there, the little mortgage firms, and I go in, I say, "Hey, I'm with Pinnacle Bank and we've got some amazing subprime products. We got great rates, we got great this. Can I talk to some of the brokers?" And they go, yeah, you can go and you can talk to brokers. And then they go in and they say, look, I'm a subprime. And they start passing out flyers. Do you have anybody? We have a great program, a no-doc program, 95%, or we have a no-doc program, 100%. It's got a variable rate mortgage. It's got, you know, whatever. So they start explaining all that. And the brokers are like, and I got a guy right now, you know, what about this? And that's perfect. You know, here's the problem. This, and this. So if you were to send it in,
Wink, wink.
right, and they slide it back, she's, if that were to be correct, well, what do you do to verify that? And then she's, well, they're going to call, and you know what I'm saying? And then she tells you what to do. She's like, that's what they do. So if they were to call and that phone number was listed in the business directory as their actual office, and the person that answered actually said, they answered it saying this was their, you know, their business, you'd be good. And you can't leave that up to a
and of
customer,
course-
by the way.
Now, when you hear this, Gary, what do you think of this shit?
This
I
isn't-
lived it. I lived it, and my concern today is they're doing kind of the same thing with Fannie Mae loans, and you're coming in with 3.5%, and the closing costs are $10,000, and people are going to their people and borrowing money. And I see a lot of poor people that really, really, really want a house. And I just look and I go, this is not going to end well. Because if you have to borrow that kind of money to get in, if you have no equity,
Well, first of all, if you're borrowing
what's
money
going to
for your down,
happen when you get the first hiccup? I mean, we're at 8% unemployment right now, which is historically high, but you came down off of COVID. But I'm reliving. I got some more questions but I'm reliving it all. And you're never going to hear anything like this, as truthful as this, as to what really happened.
So I can't tell you how many times we would get a denial on somebody, and the loan officer or the account executive comes back to our office and says, hey, you know, so-and-so got denied, right? Boom. Okay. So you know why you got denied, right? Well, because of this. And you go, right. And they'd say, So if this were to be altered and you resubmitted it, or give it to me, I'll give it to another underwriter. I'll do that. Like they would massage what was going on so that you could resubmit the same person. Like, there's like a crash test dummy, so okay, that didn't work that time. Okay, it didn't work that time. Okay, wait, now it worked. Oh, hey, we got it going through. Closing on Tuesday. Yeah. So, and what's the incentive other than the fact that I'm going to make a broker fee of, let's say, on a $100,000 property, I could make a broker fee of, let's say, $3,500, right? So I'm making $3,500. That's a pretty good incentive. If you're closing 4 or 5 of those a month, that's pretty good. Here's what this is what kills me.
Who gets $3,500? What's the gross to the office? What was the split?
Most of the time, it was 50% for most brokerage businesses. Because my brokers generated their own leads, I ran a basic ad for the office, but because they were generating their own leads, this is very carbonated.
Yeah.
I wish you'd told me that. I gave my guys 70%. So they didn't get 70. No, I'm right. They got 70%. I took 30% plus a processing fee because I had a processor that would process your files for you.
So what was the gross before the 70%? $100,000 per 100. What was the gross? How much money came to the office? Was it $3,500 per 100? Okay.
I'm not lending you $100,000. No. The bank, Pinnacle, the lender or the bank or whoever, they're lending. That money gets wired to the title company. And when it closes, I go to the closing and I get a check for $3,500.
Okay, that's
right.
what I wanted to know.
You're thinking like I'm actually the lender.
Oh, no.
Right.
Now, let me ask you another question. Countrywide Mortgage, Angelo Mozilla. Okay. I heard that when a loan went out their door, there were 15 points in it. Is that true? Was that much of a rip in that?
I have no idea. I mean, I don't know. I don't work. I don't know what they are getting on the back end, like what they're selling it for. I didn't think Countrywide. We did like conventional loans through Countrywide. And I really didn't do a lot of conventional loans personally. Like, so I had some brokers that they did them, but to me, if you walked in and you were a customer, and first of all, I'm managing the office. Once I got about 8 guys underneath me, I'm not really closing loans anymore. I'm not interested. It's enough to manage these guys. By the time it's 12 guys, you're just an accountant. You're just keeping the books. You're just paying the bills. You're just, you stop being a broker at all, unless the guys come in and say, Matt, I got a problem. Here's what's going on. Bam, bam, bam. What do I do? Okay, here's what you do. And then I would explain, look, trash that application. Here's what you're going to say. Say he works for this company, because I had dummy companies and I had dummy bank accounts and I had fake banks that were online. So he doesn't have his down payment in his bank, or he has the money in his bank, but he hasn't had it for 90 days. So he can't season his down payment. So what I would say is, okay, then on the application, say that he has an account with the Bank of Ybor. And so there was no Bank of Ybor. It's a fake bank online that I made. And so I have bank statements.
Garry, you got to hear this. Elaborate. This is good. He made a website, okay, like a bank website. I mean, fool. You couldn't even tell.
Listen.
It was amazing.
I'll tell you how extensive it was. I had 3. It wasn't just that one. I had 3 or 4 of them. Like I had one when I was on the line.
I'll cut this. Put your seat down a little bit so your head doesn't get cut off. Other side.
Okay.
I just don't want your head to get cut off from like that other one.
Whoop. I don't care.
Down a little bit more.
More?
Yeah.
Listen, you're sticking up. You're 6 foot. Look like you're 6'2".
Because
I look like I'm a fucking midget. My head's already too big for my body. Okay. I cut it off. What do you mean cut it? That's fine. Look, you can see plenty.
Okay, go ahead.
I don't want to talk about this. Okay, so don't slide me anything else. You upset me. Okay, so the bank websites. So I mean, and I've had multiple ones, right? Because when I was on the run, I'm still hitting the banks for loans and stuff. So I need bank websites, when I
That's
get
crazy.
caught, when I got caught by the Secret Service, right? And I go in to be I don't know, what are they, debriefed or whatever, and they bring you in and they talk to you and say, okay, what'd you do here? What'd you do there? The Secret Service, when I first go in, there's 2 Secret Service agents, the U.S. attorney and my attorney, and they go, okay, before we start, we want to clear something up. Is there any other money out there? And I went, no, there's no more money. I said, you got the money. You got the fucking, $600,000 out of this bank. You got $400,000 here. You got $200,000 here. You got all the money. I'm like, there's some secured credit cards and shit. But they're like, no. I mean, we mean decent, a good size amount of money. I'm like, no. And they go, you're about to get hit with an obstruction charge. Do you understand me? And I'm like, bro, I'm like, what the? And my lawyer goes, do we need to talk about this? And I went, no. I said, there's no money. And they go, really? And they slide a couple of bank statements across and they go, there's $200,000 in, I don't know what the amount was. It was like, I think it was probably 200. There's $200,000 in the name Walter Holcomb in Southern Exchange Bank of Clarksville. And I went, are you serious? They go, yeah, now stop lying. And I went, did you check this? And they're like, they go, the guy,
This is the Secret. This is
it was the
Secret
Secret
Service.
Service. And this guy had already been a smartass to me, by the way, because he actually tracked down like one of the homeless people. And I go, you tracked that guy down? He goes, yeah. And I went, how? He was homeless.
Wait, homeless? Where does this guy come in? Homeless person?
No, when I was on the run, I started surveying homeless people to get their identities. That's what you do.
I'm sorry.
That's what I did.
You know something? It's like this is like what we were talking about before. Where you see these movies. Guys
Yeah.
like this are absolutely brilliant. It wasn't like he pulled a pair of pantyhose over his face and robbed a liquor store. This really takes.
Now, tell me if I'm right. And then get back into it. So what he would do is he would go to, like the Salvation Army, okay? And he'd have a form like this already pre-made, stamped, the whole nine, because he's an artist.
Okay.
He's a really good artist. Buy his paintings, by the way. And he would make a thing that says, look, I'm doing a survey. I'll give you $25 to fill this out. Now, the guy is fucking homeless, right?
Yeah.
So $25, fuck, he can go get beer, a bottle of vodka, whatever. Well, on that survey is your social, your date of birth, blah, 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 blah. Now, he takes that, okay? He gets a birth certificate, driver's license, social security card, builds the credit of this homeless guy that he just gave $25 to, and builds a whole name and the whole shit. And
right. But the guy's living
license.
under the bridge. I would go get the DMV to give me a driver's license in his name. I'd order a passport in his name. I would get everything in his name. Now, he's 2 states away, so there's no crossover. So if I'm in South Carolina getting a driver's license in your name and I got your information and you were in Utah, I'm fine. So anyway, back to the homeless guy. So the Secret Service agent, when I first got there, he was like, yeah, we found this guy. And I went, how'd you find him? And I said, he was homeless. He lives under a bridge. And he goes, we're the Secret Service. He goes, that's what we do. And I was like,
homeless guys.
and I just remember thinking, okay, you're.
Do they know where Hunter Biden is? No, but we got this homeless guy cold.
Yeah.
So 10 minutes later, or not 10 minutes, 3 minutes after that conversation, he says, we know you've got this much money in Southern Exchange Bank. And I go, did you look into this? Of course we looked into it. What do you, he goes, we're going to, he said, I don't know what you're doing. He goes, Cox. He goes, Mr. Cox, he goes, we're going to get the money. We just subpoenaed the bank accounts. And I went, where? And he goes, to Southern Exchange Bank. And I went, okay. I go, well, did you call the bank? And he goes, yeah, I've called the bank. He goes, we've left several messages. He goes, I haven't got no return call, but I've been out of the office. And so, yeah. And I went, did you go to the website? He goes, yeah, I went to the website. And I went, what did you think of the website? And he goes, it's a bank website. And I went, but I mean, it was nice. It's professional. And he goes, it's a bank website. And I go, yeah, but it's a good, it's a good website. And I went, I mean, it's convincing. And he goes, oh, son of a bitch. And so I remember the secrets, like they're all like, "What's going on?" I remember the U.S. attorney goes, "What's going on? What's going on?" My attorney goes, "What's going on?" And he looks at me and he goes, "It's fake, isn't it?" I go, "It's all an illusion." And he goes, I go, "Who's your subpoena?" And he goes, "We subpoenaed he goes, but the bank routing number." He goes, "That's the Southern Exchange Bank." I said, "You're right. Southern Exchange Bank was bought by SunTrust Bank." So I said I was able to get the routing number. I said, so I used the routing number, and he goes, "Why would you do that?" I said, "In case anybody looked into it. There was a Southern Exchange Bank." I go, "My bank was Southern Exchange Bank of Clarksville." And I said, "So was my website." I go, "Because Southern Exchange Bank or southernexchange.com, I said, that was taken. I couldn't use that one. I couldn't even buy it." I said, so I put of Clarksville. I said, because I knew nobody would look into it that deeply. So you subpoenaed who? He goes, "I subpoenaed the old banks, the old address." And I go, "Who have you been leaving messages with?" He goes, I actually had a voicemail. So he had been leaving messages on the voicemail. Nobody's there to call him back. I was incarcerated, so I couldn't call him back.
I would want to know if he paid the process server. How do you serve a summons or a subpoena to somebody that's not there? All right. So for the uninitiated, you went from you jumped from the mortgage brokerage to the second stage.
Okay, so back to the original question.
Go back to the original, and how did that finish up?
Well,
and put some time with it so we can.
So time. What do you mean? Time
Well,
frame?
like years, so that we know what was going on. Where you left us is you're getting 3,500 per 100, and you're paying the guys, and you're doing some.
Well, yeah. What you do is this is where people. This is just common to the industry. This is just what I'm about to tell you is just how the industry works, and you kind of know. I'm sure you know from your point of view.
I'm trying to.
Right. But a lot of people, when you tell them they're like, they'll go, what? Like, they don't understand. They're like, that's what's happening. So what's funny is a lot of times you go into, like, a lot of people will say, "Oh, we charge 2 points," or no, the lender pays us 2 points. "We don't charge you anything." "You don't charge me anything?" "No." Or, "We pay your closing costs. We've paid this much closing costs." And you're like, wow, you guys paid $2,500 of my closing costs? Or, "You don't charge a broker fee at all?" "Nope, no broker fees." Yeah, they're working for free. If you're so stupid that you walk into a place and think they're working for free, you deserve to get taken. So, and I've had people who are like, "Yeah, man, they didn't even charge me a broker fee."
You got to be like, what?
"Oh, no."
Fuck?
I'm sitting there looking at them going, "Really? Yeah, I got a good deal, bro." "Really? You think the broker did all that work and that these guys kept that place open by not charging broker fees?" "Yeah, bro, I saw the closing statement. There's no broker fee. He even pointed out to me where there was no broker fee."
Now, in your head, you got to be dying, right? Like, you're dying.
My God, I wish all my customers were that stupid. So, basically, and I'm sure you know this, and a lot of people realize, some people realize this, but here's the thing. So they're like, yeah. I'm like, "So how they get paid?" Maybe the guy says, "Oh, no. Yeah, the lender pays them." "Really?" So basically, here's the way it works.
Is this back because they did make changes after in recent years?
Yeah,
they took away the ability of these guys to make with the money that you could, but
they limited it slightly.
Okay.
So what happened was your interest rate. So you come in, you say, "Okay, well, your interest rate is it's 5%." So you know what a basis point is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So each interest.
Well, the people might not.
Okay. For every interest rate is made up of 100 basis points. So you'll see a lot of people will come in and they'll go, "Oh, okay, well, my interest rate is, it's 5.1%. Okay. So it's that's 10 basis points, right? So you go, okay, 5.1 is 10 basis points. So you say, okay, well, so this is what, let's say, Pinnacle Bank tells us, hey, the guy's interest rate is 5.1. Okay. But if you add 25 basis points to it, we'll give you 1 point on the back of the loan. So you've got a $100,000 loan. If you jack his interest rate up by 0.25%, we'll give you $1,000 on the back of the loan. It's called yield spread. So I get $1,000. So, and some of them, they'll go up to 5. They were going up to 5. So now I say, okay, well, you know what? I'm charging a $2,500 broker fee up front. So I'm charging you $25 for a $100,000 loan, $2,500 up front. Okay. And then you come in and I say, oh, your interest rate it's 5.85 interest rate. I added 325. I added 75 basis points onto your 5.1 interest rate. So now you're at 5.85. You're still under 6. And I'm not getting 1,000 on the back end. I'm getting $3,000 on the back end plus 2,500. I'm now making, this pen sucks. I'm now making $5,500 on that loan. But you as the customer only really see 2,500. The yield spread is on the HUD, but it's off to the side, and the title people never point it out. Do you see what I mean? Like they would never say anything, or if they did, if somebody said, "Hey, what's this?" or they would skate over, they'd go, "And there's yield, and there's yield spread of $3,000." And if somebody even said, "What's the $3,000?" they'd go, "Well, that's yield spread that's paid to the lender or to the broker by the lender." They don't ever say, "Oh, well, that's where he bumped your interest rate up by 75 by 0.75." They don't ever say that, obviously. Well, if they do, maybe they do, but I don't go back to that guy. He and I have a talk.
And then that's
it? Yeah. And either if it happens again, we're just done. So what ended up happening is, so I just jacked your interest rate up by 75 basis points, which obviously if your interest rate goes up, your payment. So if your payment was, $800, now it's $910, or if I went from 800 to 970 or whatever, I just added $70 on to your payment. But I make an extra $3,000, so I make $5,500 on your loan. So that's where you get where these guys say, "Oh, he only charged me $2,500, or he only charged me $1,000 on my loan. Oh man, that's a good deal. That's a good deal." Yeah, but I bumped your interest rate up.
So let's do, because I want to get to how that business. Obviously, you're not in it anymore. It ended. I want to get to that, but let's do a little public service announcement. You go in today and you're going to get a mortgage, because there's a lot of people doing it. And I'm telling you, I called the legal hotline this week because I'm running into all kinds of problems. I am a real estate agent, disclose that, but I'm running into all kinds of problems with new lenders, new appraisers, new real estate agents. And they told me on the hotline, yeah, we deal with this more than you can possibly imagine. So do it quickly, because this thing could drag on for 3 days. I mean, I'm just loving this. What are you looking for when you go in and you're applying for a loan?
I mean, what are you looking for as far as?
You've got a 680 credit score. I show you how you're going to get a pre-approval on a $300,000. It's Florida, $300,000 house.
Right.
You just went through all those numbers where in the old days they hid stuff. So what are you looking at when this guy gives you his disclosure?
You want to ask him if is there any yield spread on the back of the loan? What are your fees? The problem is that most of these guys are such, I want to say used car salesmen, but that would be insulting, used car salesmen. They're so shisty that they're like, they talk, "Oh, no, don't even worry about this. Don't even, that's just, the computer kicks that out. That's just an estimate. Don't even worry about that. Sign here." What the fuck am I signing an estimate
Tommy,
for?
strippers, plumbers, and mortgage brokers.
Yeah. All have the common denominator. Is that what you're trying to say?
They're going to call you at night. But
So
look, any market that is as hot as this market is, and I hate hot markets because they never end well, is going to draw a lot of people in that see the commissions first.
Now,
Right.
do you agree with that, Matt?
what? That
That
hot
a
market?
market's a bad market?
Yeah, it's a balloon. I mean, your real estate prices can't excel at this astronomical rate and continue without. I mean, it's going to inflate, and then it's going to, it's
Well,
just any
interest
bubble.
rates are as low as they can go.
Yeah. Well, I
Okay,
mean,
if
they're
they go up at
boosting up.
all, and all mortgages are predicated on your ability to pay them back. So what do you think? Burger King's going to $30 an hour? So there is a bubble, but the point is that's why you see what you see, because people are coming in and all they see is the money. They think that I sell a house and it's 6% and it's 300,000 and that's 18,000 and I get to keep it, and that's not the way it is. So
You can keep it as long as you can pay it. The problem is they think that their job's not going to go away. You know what I'm
exactly.
saying? They think I'll be able to continue to pay it. Like putting money, putting money in real estate right now, isn't a bad idea. If you're borrowing money, I understand what you're going to say, that it's inflated, so the value may not be there in 6 months. But here's the thing, there's going to be, at some point in the very near future, there will be inflation, right? So
Have to be.
So your interest, so right now you borrowed $300,000 at $2,000, a month, because it's almost no interest. So let's say 1 or 2, let's say 2% or 3% interest, which is virtually nothing. So you buy at 3%, and it's $2,000 a month of your payment, and that's fixed as long as it's fixed for the next 30 years, and you're in that house, and then inflation hits. Everything else is going to soar through the roof, and as long as you can pay the $2,000, you're good. You put your money in the smart place. The problem is if you can't, and people don't ever think their job's going away. They think, well, yeah, that job failed, and that place failed, and that place failed. But I do this, and they're going to continue to need me, and maybe.
So you would say they get these loans at the time they can pay it, but they don't think forward, like, well, what happens if something happens to my job?
Well, nothing's going to happen to my job. I'm a waiter. People need
Right.
food. Really? Really? Because all the waiters were out of fucking work when COVID hit. It's like you always think, just like real estate market going down. The real estate market, I used to tell my customers all the time, the real estate market's been going up 3% in Florida for the last 20 years. You're going to be good. And they'd be like, yeah, of course. Well, what happened 4 years later when it took a nosedive? I couldn't foresee that. I mean, there's some things you just can't foresee. So in a way, it's great. Buy real estate. It's a solid investment. But if there's a possibility that if the market's going to crash and you're going to lose your job and you can't pay it, you're going to lose your house.
Or the other thing is, bears make money, bulls make money, pigs get slaughtered. In the last podcast we did, we were talking about the Airbnb phenomenon. And for 6 months here, you can't rent out an Airbnb. So now you got these kids that own 5 of these places.
Yeah.
And they've got the nut, but they ain't got the income.
Right.
So all of that stuff. Okay, so if you want to stop the tape, you told what to do when you're going to get a mortgage, ask for the disclosures. I'm interested in how the retail brokerage business ended for you with the 12 guys and everything, and the strippers and the plumbers. And,
Well, here's the funny thing about that. What I didn't mention was, like, we didn't actually do a ton of no-doc loans.
Mm-hmm.
Like, here's what kills me. I know guys that went to jail. I know guys that went to prison. There was a guy that went to prison. He got like 25, 26 years because basically he had borrowed a bunch of money on no-doc loans. So he bought a ton of properties using no-doc loans, where he went in and he borrowed the money. And then, of course, when the market crashed, the things went under. And when he got investigated, the broker got investigated. He got investigated. And he was like, I didn't do anything wrong. I came in there like, yeah, but you didn't make this much money. And he was like, I didn't fill out the paperwork. And it was a no-doc loan. You just had to write down whatever you wrote. You wrote down whatever you needed to write down to qualify. And they said, no, that's not true. That's not how it worked. He's like, well, that's how the broker told me it worked. The broker's filling out the paperwork. So this guy goes to trial. He loses. I mean, he loses in trial. He gets 25 years.
And he was just a regular guy?
Yeah, just regular. Well, he was a real estate investor at that point because he was able to acquire so many properties so easily. He very quickly became just a real estate investor. Yeah, John Bond.
I think it was Vaughn. I read
Vaughn,
about
John
it,
Vaughn. Yeah,
yeah,
he
John
was
Vaughn.
he was in I was in B4. He was in B3. Nicest guy. Does
Yeah, I
yoga.
read about it in the paper.
Does yoga
It's
in the
John,
yard.
the guy's name
Great
is
guy.
John Vaughn.
Yeah, great guy. Very nice.
And is he doing the whole slug of time?
Oh, he's gonna do all of it. He's gonna do it.
Oh my
Yeah.
God!
They're brutal. Bro, they don't give a shit. They don't give a shit. Look, I'm supposed to talk
and
to.
I thought I had a bad day.
I'm supposed to talk to a bunch of brokers
Whenever
like
you
in
think
a
you
week
have
or
a
two.
bad day, think of that.
I'm gonna go home and Google him. John Vaughn,
Yeah,
Victor Oscar November.
It was in the paper.
Nice guys in B3.
Yeah, he's in B3. He does yoga.
He does yoga.
Yeah, he does yoga.
He wears. Wait a minute. He wears yoga pants in prison.
There's no yoga pants in prison.
I didn't think so.
Garry escaped prison. Somehow.
So what happened is what happened was I was also flipping properties on the side, right? So I'm also buying properties, fixing them up, selling them. So I had bought like 3 properties, bought them for like $40,000 a piece, and then I renovated them, and now the appraisals came in at $200,000. But you know what seasoning is? Okay, so I can't refinance them.
So what is seasoning?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, ask
Yeah.
questions because
Yeah,
you're,
definitely.
yeah,
You're right.
yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I hate that when people don't explain. So there's a practice in lending where if I buy a property for $40,000, let's say I put 40 in it, it's now worth. But so now I brought it up to market. Like so now it's in good shape. It was a crack house when I bought it. It's a total rehab. I bought it for 40, put 40 in it, and now it appraises at, let's say, 150. So you think, great, I bought it in January. In March, I was done with the rehab, so now it's worth $150,000. I can now go to the bank and say, look, give me an appraisal. It's worth $150,000. I want to refinance it and get my original $40,000 back plus the $40,000 that I put in for the renovations. The lender will say, yeah, but you have to wait. It's not seasoned. You have to wait a year before we will give you the value, the appraised value. The only value we'll give you now is the $40,000 you bought it for and the $40,000 you put into it. So we're not giving you the $150 value, we're giving you $80. So you can refinance $80 and we'll give you 80% of $80, and so you're going to get $68,000 after closing. You're going to end up with, you're going to walk away with $61,000. Well, that sucks, isn't it? I need my money back because I need to buy more properties. So what I did was when I married my wife at the time, we got married, and she was like, okay, well, I'm going to change my last name. And I went, no, you're not. You're not going to change your last name. You're not going to get any joint credit cards or anything else. We're pulling your credit under a different address. So you're completely separate from me. That way, when I buy properties, renovate them, I can sell them to you. And I get around seasoning. Because if I sell the property, the new borrower can get the value of $150. But as a refi, I can't, because otherwise what the issue is this. And during the savings and loan crisis, right, in the 80s, what people would do is they'd go buy properties, they would renovate them, they'd get this astronomical appraisal, and then they'd pull out as much money as they could, and they'd go on. Well, of course, the savings and loans were dumping tons of money into things like that. And so people were going in, they were buying property with hard money, fixing it up with hard money, paying back the hard money lender and pulling out a couple $100,000. And they could do that for years and then rent the property out and break even. They could do it for years, and they'd end up with $1 million or $2 million, and then they just let it all go. And then you have all these savings and loans collapsing left and right. So they then implemented seasoning after that. And they said, no. From now on, you as an investor who buys a property, renovates it, and tries to refinance it, you have to wait a year. And that's what happens. It's seasoning. So to get around that, what I was doing was I was buying properties, renovating them, and selling them to my ex-wife. Or my current wife at the time. My wife at the time. Anyway, so I was selling them to my wife at the time. Well, she would then rent them out, get them completely rented out and with renters, and then sell them. So we're making even more money.
How many laws did you break by?
All of them. I mean, the down payments. First of all, it's not an arm's length transaction.
Oh,
It's what's called a cash back scheme. It's called an owner occupancy scheme because we would say she lived there. It's the W-2s and pay stubs. So listen, across the board, there's like it's almost every scam except the only scam it wasn't was a straw man scam because she actually was a human being. Because I can't tell you how many loans I've got. I've gotten 11, 12, $13 million for people that don't even exist.
that's chapter 2.
Right. So that's my book. I have a book. It's called Shark in the Housing Pool, and it's nothing short of phenomenal. So you should buy it. And Tommy's going to put the link in the description.
Oh, we can
Absolutely.
do that. 1, 2, 3 in the description.
In the description.
Yeah.
So
Well, yeah, I want one.
Yeah.
So I have one downstairs.
I would have you sign it, but what the hell? I'll just sign it and tell everybody it was you. I mean, since we're
That's scary
forging,
for you.
since
So-
we're forging documents.
Yeah.
So basically what happens, I did that. And so we had done that and we were selling the properties. And this was just kind of a it's a mill. We're just,
Like a merry-go-round.
yeah, we're just pop,
Yeah.
pop, 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 pop. So we're making money at every single step. Doing great. Well, I had a broker that had once worked for me. And she left and she and her husband started a brokerage business. Well, because I had bought the properties, I was buying properties and renovating those properties. I can't sell them. Like I can't do a loan. I can't buy a property, fix it up, and then use my mortgage company to get you a loan. The lenders are like, what are you talking about? Wait a minute. The owner of the company.
Arm's length, right?
Yeah, it's not an arm's length transaction. They're like, that's the same reason I said don't take my name because it won't be an arm's length transaction. They don't know where I'm related to my wife. So,
they could have found out, but there's no reason for them to go check.
there's no reason for them. If you think about it, you'd have to check every single person that comes in and says they're single.
We're talking about law enforcement people who are subpoenaing banks that don't exist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So,
I knew something was horribly, horribly wrong from about 1997, and and all of this came down, and to sit here and hear this is just, oh my God.
this is nothing. This is a specific story you asked me, but I could go on and on about I could tell you stuff that's ridiculous. I could talk about closing 8 owner occupied properties for a real estate agent at the same time, within a day of each other. And listen, I can tell you about I had a sheriff's deputy who we did 6 owner occupied properties for his wife, and she never signed one of them. We signed everything.
Now, why when you say owner occupied, what are we
Impressive.
talking about?
Owner occupied
Impressive.
meaning that she lives there. She didn't live there. She like
And
I-
that got you the loan.
that gets me a 95 to 100% loan
Yeah.
on a property. So if you're buying, first of all,
Ask questions if you don't know,
Yeah,
because
no,
the
first of
people
all, she
listening
lives-
to this will
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
know.
First of all, she she lived in a townhouse worth $200,000-$300,000. I'm convincing the lenders that she's buying $100,000 duplexes, and she's going to live in them, 6 of them. And she was working the day of the closing. So her husband's a sheriff's deputy. So we're like, look, we got the closing. He's like, man, she's at work. Can we do this? Can we do that? And I went, and we closed all of them at the same title company. So the same title
How
company.
insane, now,
they
how
all-
insane is that?
So
be able
they
to
know.
close them all at the same title company.
Same title company, and
Is that
so
insane?
so they all the title agent knows she's not living. They have to disclose to her.
Is she in B4 next to the guy? That
No,
does-
she didn't get prosecuted. So she
Oh
so
my God.
so they I said, you know what? I said, I bet I could go over there and get them to give me the thing. I said, we're pretty good with them. So I go and I said, look, she's at work. I got to drive them to her. They were like, oh, Matt, you got to get a copy of her driver's license. Oh, of course, absolutely, of course. So we get a copy of her driver's license, but I actually had one of my mortgage broker who had very girly handwriting. He signed them. Boom, boom, boom. We just signed all of them. We went back. Boom, here it is. We get our checks. And then, so she never closed. Like literally, she came home that day, and her husband said, "Hey, you closed on like 6 places today, by the way." And she's like, "I did? Yeah. Well, they signed the documents. Everything is cool." Then she's like, "Okay." Oh yeah. Listen, I've got matter of fact, one of the biggest lawyers in Tampa right now, an Indian guy. That's all I'll say. Hot wife, by the way. total arranged marriage because he was a little short, fat, roly-poly looking motherfucker.
Right.
Go easy
So-
now. Come on.
So I sold him a property. Lawyer. I sold him a property that he was going to use as his law firm, which he did. So he bought the property. He did not have a down payment. And he needed money out too. So we got him like a 95% loan. Couldn't put the money in. And we pulled out like 30 grand to give to him so that he could open his law office. This guy's like fresh out of a law school. And we're talking about maybe 6 months to a year. He's working for some other company. And he moves into the place, into the office. So one, you got 30 grand back. Your W-2s are fake. You got 30 grand back. You're not owner occupying the property. It's zone commercial. You're going to use it. I mean, everything about that whole transaction is complete. This is a lawyer. So we're talking about. Listen, I've done loans for lawyers, for police officers, for sheriff's deputies,
Strippers and plumbers.
I mean, it's all the same.
Yeah.
So, yeah, for all.
I had
all
a
those
guy
things.
tell me a story. This was about 2010, and he was up in New Jersey, and he came down here to work, and he said, I'm a Christian, and I don't know, I was older when I went there. This guy says, I'm a Christian, and the things that I did were horrible. And he goes, I said, well, I'm Italian. I said, I can't give you absolution. What do you want? He goes, he was telling me that he was going to buy a house, and he said, I can't afford this house. And the mortgage broker said, sure you can. You live on the first floor, you rent out the basement, you rent out the upstairs, and you see here are the numbers, and they all work, and that's the kind of stuff that was going on. When I first got in this side of the business was 2010. I was like 58 years old. I'm looking through the documents and everything, and I see this guy, and I read the court documents. He spoke no English, but he owned 3 houses in Lake Worth on the other side of Dixie Highway, the tough neighborhoods over there. He was, what Matt was talking about, a straw man. And he used, at the time, Goldman and 2 other big banks. Okay? And that's how he got those properties. And that's the kind of stuff that went on. And of course, after the 2008 debacle, they all came into foreclosure.
Yeah.
And this guy spoke no English at the hearing. They just probably, right, Matt? They probably just pulled him in and said, here, do this for us. We'll give you cash. Just sign this, no problem. Probably pulled the money out of, overpaid for the property, pulled the money out, faked the appraisal, and they got away with it. Now, with all of these, we can go into the next stage of this. Who got screwed? I mean, somebody ended up holding the bag. But I think it's...
In which case?
Well, if you come to me and you take me now, you sell me a car for $15,000. I get home, find out there's sawdust in the engine. You got me for $15K. Who was taken? It just seems
so you're
to
asking,
me.
who are the victims?
Who are
Is
the
that what you're
victims of
asking?
that? I'm sure that the loans were packaged as subprime and sold off to bearer these guys. So
It depends on, it depends on who, on who paid. And like here's a lot of times people think, okay, so I fudged the numbers to get you the loan, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you got a $200,000 loan that you shouldn't have got. And people are like, oh, that's fraud, that's this, that's that. I understand, but what if you make all the payments? I understand it's still fraud. It's absolutely fraud. It's illegal and it's fraud. But the truth is that you made all the payments. So you're making the payments. Maybe you refinanced in 6 years. Maybe 2008 came and you continue to be able to make the payments. Maybe you went under in 2008 because you never should have gotten the house to begin with. But there are tons of people that absolutely got qualified for loans that they could afford and lost their houses too. 2008 came. There was some guy who's a manager for a McDonald's, and he's living in his house and everything's great and everything's going good, and suddenly the economy tanks, and guess what? He loses his job and he loses the house. I mean, he qualified for that house. He didn't do anything wrong either. So a lot of these people, these loans that were made, all performed. So, you know, in that, so when you were asking me, how did I lose the brokerage business? Is that original question?
Lose it or close it? I don't know that you
Well,
lost it.
No, I did the loans for my ex-wife. By the time the FBI, now my friend or my broker that went and started her own place, I would close all the loans in her place, right? Remember, because I told her not arm's length, so I had to have her close them. I closed them in her name. Then I gave her the files, because what if she's audited? Keep in mind, I was audited like 3 different times by the Department of Banking and Finance. Never had a problem. So she ended up getting in trouble for running a straw man scam.
Your wife did.
No, not my wife.
The
girl that I closed, my ex-broker that opened another brokerage business.
I see. Okay.
She got in trouble for running a straw man scam, and she cooperated against me. And so the FBI came to me. That's a short version. The FBI comes to me and they said, "Look, we know this." So I go to a lawyer, and we want to talk to you. We're investigating you. We want to talk to you. So I go get a lawyer. My lawyer comes. My lawyer goes to the FBI and says, "Look, what do you want?" And they were like, "Look, we know about these loans that he did. They're non-arm's length transaction. He lied on the applications. He sold them to his current wife." And so they said, "You plead guilty, and we'll give you 3 years probation, and take away your mortgage license. You have to sacrifice your mortgage license, and you're a felon. You can't run the brokerage business anymore. But you're on paper for 3 years. $1,000 fine. No big deal." So I pay my $1,000 fine. I go on probation. I transfer This is okay. That's it. We're done. We're done with that. I know. I got you, bro. I got you. It's my bad and totally my fault, and I feel bad about it. And look, okay. So I now can't own the brokerage business. So I transfer the brokerage business into one of my brokers who was a CPA. I transfer it into his name, and he agrees to pay me $8,000 a month to basically to be like a consultant, right? So I'm not running the business. I started a development company, and I started buying and selling houses in Ybor City, and I just started a much larger scam. That's when I told you I started making fake people and fake synthetic identities and buying houses.
And this is all in his book.
Yeah, I took the median price in Ybor City from $50,000 to $250,000 and borrowed $11.5 million until eventually the FBI showed up, and then I went on the run for 3 years. But so at that point, I stopped with the brokerage business, although the guys are all still there. Actually, that guy.
Even today?
No, it went under. It went under when eventually the FBI came in the second time.
Mm-hmm.
That's then they came in and were like, the doors.
Were they still?
You guys are done.
The guys were still doing the same stuff?
Oh yeah, tons of fraud. I think it was like between $40 and $50 million. They said that the brokerage business had done, and that was just kind of an estimate. It could have been 20 million higher.
How much?
I don't know.
Well, it was the subprime crisis, but what happened, Tommy, was they were selling all this paper to the major brokerage firms who would wrap it up and sell it to pension funds. And in the case of Goldman Sachs, was it Paulson? Paulson had Goldman Sachs create a vehicle where he could short CMOs, collateralized mortgage obligations. He could sell against them and short it. And Goldman was on the other side creating the same product, telling them how good it was.
Yeah.
So the whole 08 crisis was predicated on that. And like anything, when that started to crack, it brought everything else with it.
Yeah.
And of course, then you get the recession, and the people can't pay their loans, and you get the short sales, and you get that's the whole thing. This is an integral part of a lot of problems that we're still seeing now, because this is where the money comes in. They start bailing people out because the politicians don't want to go to jail either.
Right. Well,
So
they don't anyway.
The easiest thing is to give people our money.
Yeah.
Government's taking our money and giving it to people.
Yeah.
And that's
I get
that's
it.
what it's about.
I get it. and you know, I think we should separate it into two parts to the other end of his, because this is a lot to grasp if you really don't know it.
I was thinking 2 parts because
Yeah.
the next part of what he's going to talk about is totally
real
different,
crazy.
but it's
and
the
it's
same.
also in his book. His book's killer. His book's killer.
When the hell you got time to read a book?
You don't have to. It's on Audible.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great because, man, my eyes are killing me.
Yeah, no, it will be in the description and everything else.
Yeah, we got it. We do have to. I have to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Fucking these drinks go right through me.
Yeah, no, he's
Well,
here tomorrow.
It's,
We'll do
it's
another one.
supposed to. That's called.
can do
Fifth
it.
But
Element.
thanks,
Talk
Gary.
about we can do it
Thanks,
now.
Gary.
Are we going to do
Oh.
the other one? You want
do it
to?
We'll
right
do the other
now.
one tomorrow.
You want to do it tomorrow?
Yeah, we'll eat. We'll do it tomorrow.
Okay. That's all. I don't have a
Is
problem.
that all right with you?
Yeah. What are you doing in town?
I'm this.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I came over. You know. I you know what's so funny is that he's smiling right now. You just can't tell because of all the Botox.
Go
Like-
fuck yourself.
Well, I thought this was excellent.
No, it is.
I
So,
en-
so thank you, Gary.
I-
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah.